I still remember the look on my patient's face when I told her what was happening. She was 72, full of life, sharp-minded, but exhausted in a way that didn't make sense. Her wrinkles seemed deeper than the year before, her energy drained, her memory foggier. She thought it was just getting old. But as I reviewed her blood work, I saw something that made my heart sink. It wasn't just age. It was a hidden deficiency silently speeding up her aging by nearly a decade. And she had no idea. Here's the truth few people talk about. Aging doesn't always come from time itself. It often comes from what our bodies are missing. And one silent deficiency, common in seniors, devastating in its effects, is robbing millions of their strength, independence, and even years of life. I've seen it again and again in my practice. People who should be thriving in their 70s and 80s instead look and feel 10 years older. And what shocked me most of them had been to doctors before. Most had routine checkups. But this one simple thing slipped through the cracks. That's why I need you to hear this, because you might feel fine now. You might think you're just slowing down with age. But if this deficiency is at work inside you, it won't stop. It chips away at your joints, your heart, your memory, quietly, steadily, until one day you look in the mirror and barely recognize the person staring back. I've sat across from seniors who broke down in tears, telling me they felt like their bodies betrayed them, and in many ways they had. Not because of genetics, not because of fate, but because no one told them about this one missing vitamin. And here's the kicker, it's something you could easily correct if you only knew. What I found next shocked even me as a doctor, because this deficiency isn't rare, it's not exotic. In fact, research shows that nearly half of seniors in developed countries have dangerously low levels. And the consequences go far beyond feeling tired. We're talking faster cognitive decline, weak bones that shatter from a minor fall, skin that loses elasticity at lightning speed. Even the immune system, the very thing protecting us from infections and cancer, becomes sluggish, leaving the door wide open to illness. And the worst part, many doctors don't check for it unless you specifically ask. They see your blood pressure, your cholesterol, your weight, but they don't see the slow erosion happening at the cellular level. So you're sent home with a clean bill of health while your body quietly ages faster than it should. I want you to imagine this to people, both 70 years old. One is vibrant, walking daily, remembering names, enjoying grandchildren. The other is hunched, weak, forgetful, dependent. The difference between them isn't just luck. It often comes down to whether or not they have enough of this essential nutrient. That's how powerful it is. And here's where the story takes a turn. Because once I began digging deeper, once I started testing more of my patients for the specific deficiency, I realized just how widespread the damage was. It wasn't just fatigue. It wasn't just wrinkles. It was heart failure, strokes, early dementia, preventable suffering, and yet, with the right steps, completely reversible. So if you've ever wondered why you feel older than your age, if you've ever noticed your skin, your memory, or your energy slipping away faster than your friends, this may be the hidden reason. And once I reveal it to you, you'll never look at your daily routine the same way again. But before I tell you the exact vitamin that could be aging you 10 years faster, you need to understand the dangers it creates inside the body. Because once you know how it works, how it slowly breaks you down from the inside out, you'll realize why ignoring it is one of the most dangerous mistakes any senior can make. When I first started noticing the patterns, I thought it was coincidence. A patient would come in with unexplained fatigue, brittle nails, thinning hair, or complaints of just feeling old. Another would show signs of depression, even though nothing in their life had changed. Then I'd see more and more with bone density loss, muscle weakness, memory lapses, different problems on the surface, but when I looked beneath, they all pointed to the same root cause. That root cause was deficiency in a vitamin most people assume they're getting enough of, vitamin D, the so-called sunshine vitamin. And yet, despite its nickname, millions of seniors are starved of it, sometimes without realizing it for years. The irony? It's one of the easiest vitamins to replenish, if only people knew they needed to. Now, you might be thinking, how could something so basic, something we've all heard of, cause such damage? The answer lies in what vitamin D actually does. It's not just about bones, although that's the part most people know. It's a hormone-like substance that regulates over 100 genes in your body. It controls calcium absorption, sure, but it also supports immune defense, balances mood, protects the brain, and maintains the health of your heart and blood vessels. When levels dip to low, the entire system falters. Imagine a house with a cracked foundation. At first, you don't notice, but slowly, the floors begin to sag, the walls shift, the roof leaks. That's what vitamin D deficiency does to your body. Silent cracks, until one day, the structure no longer holds. I'll never forget one gentleman in his late 60s, a retired teacher, sharp as ever, but increasingly anxious about his forgetfulness. He feared dementia ran in his family. His wife worried too. When we tested his vitamin D, it was shockingly low. After months of careful supplementation and lifestyle adjustments, his memory improved. His confidence returned. It wasn't a miracle cure, but it was enough to give him hope. Enough to show me, once again, how often we mislabel aging when really it's deficiency. The dangers extend beyond the mind. Deficiency weakens the immune system, which is why seniors often face recurring infections. It weakens muscles, making falls more likely. And when bones are brittle, those falls lead to devastating fractures. In fact, hip fractures alone can shorten a senior's life expectancy more than many cancers. Yet the chain often starts with vitamin D, a simple, overlooked factor. And there's another layer. Low vitamin D has been linked to cardiovascular disease. Studies show increased risks of high blood pressure, heart failure, and stroke. This isn't fringe science. It's well established in clinical research. But here's the chilling part. Most people with low vitamin D have no symptoms until damage is already done. They think they're fine, until they're not. I always tell my patients, if you think wrinkles are just skin deep, think again. Vitamin D deficiency accelerates aging in your cells themselves. The mitochondria, your cell's energy factories, begin to falter. Your telomeres, the protective caps on your DNA, shorten more quickly. In other words, your biological clock ticks faster than it should. That's why I say this deficiency ages you a decade in silence. And here's the cruel twist. Seniors are especially vulnerable because their skin produces less vitamin D from sunlight. Even if they spend time outdoors, add to that sunscreen, long winters, indoor lifestyles, and certain medications, and the odds stack up against you. It's not negligence, it's biology, but it can be devastating. So now you know the villain, vitamin D deficiency. The question becomes, how do you fight back? How do you restore what time, environment, and lifestyle have quietly stolen? That's where the solutions begin, and I'll share the most powerful, practical steps you can take to protect your body, mind, and years of life. But before I tell you the safe ways to restore your levels, I need to warn you, not all solutions are created equal. Some approaches can do more harm than good, and the line between healing and hurting is thinner than you think. I've seen both sides of the story. One patient turned his life around with the right approach, regaining energy and clarity he thought was gone forever. Another, desperate for a quick fix, tried to do it alone with massive over-the-counter doses and ended up in the hospital with calcium buildup in his kidneys. That's why I always remind people, the solution is simple, but it has to be done wisely. Let's start with the most natural source, sunlight. Your skin has an incredible ability to produce vitamin D when exposed to UVB rays. For most of human history, this was how we maintained healthy levels. But in seniors, the process weakens. A 70-year-old makes about a quarter of the vitamin D that a 20-year-old does from the same sunlight exposure. So while sunlight is still important, and a short walk outside can help mood, bones, and sleep, it's rarely enough on its own. Diet is another piece of the puzzle, though it's often misunderstood. Yes, certain foods contain vitamin D, fatty fish like salmon, sardines, mackerel, fortified dairy, and egg yolks. But here's the truth. Even if you ate these foods daily, it's nearly impossible to get optimal levels from diet alone. They help, they support, but they can't fully correct a deficiency. That leaves supplementation, the tool that, when used carefully, can truly change lives. Most seniors I test have vitamin D blood levels far below the ideal. For reference, many labs consider 30 ml adequate, but in practice, I found seniors feel their best with stronger bones, sharper minds, and steadier energy when their levels are closer to 50 to 60 ml. That's where supplementation becomes critical. But here's the part that often gets overlooked. Vitamin D doesn't work in isolation. It's a team player. Without enough magnesium, your body can't properly activate it. Without vitamin K2, the calcium it helps absorb may end up in your arteries instead of your bones. That's why some people take vitamin D and still don't feel better, because the supporting cast is missing. In my practice, when I pair vitamin D3 with K2 and ensure healthy magnesium intake, the results are dramatically different. Patients report fewer aches, better sleep, even clearer thinking. Another mistake I see, sporadic use. Someone takes supplements for a month, feels a little better, then forgets. Vitamin D isn't a short-term fix. It's about steady levels over months and years. The body needs consistency, not bursts. That's why I encourage routine, tying your supplement to a daily habit, like breakfast or brushing your teeth. And yet, even with all this knowledge, there's one step too many people skip: testing. A simple blood test minus 25 hydroxy vitamin D can tell you exactly where you stand. Without it, you're guessing in the dark. Too little, and you stay deficient. Too much, and you risk toxicity. With the test, you can target precisely, adjust safely, and track progress over time. I'll never forget a woman in her late 70s who resisted supplements because she already got sun from gardening. When she finally agreed to a test, her levels were barely detectable. Within 6 months of guided supplementation, she called me laughing, saying she finally had the energy to finish a day in her garden without collapsing into bed. It wasn't magic. It was simply restoring what her body had been missing for decades. Now, I need to be clear. Vitamin D is not a cure-all. It won't erase every wrinkle, solve every illness, or stop time, but it will slow the clock. It will protect your bones, your heart, your mind. It will give you a fighting chance to age with strength, dignity, and independence. And sometimes, that's all we need, a fighting chance. But here's the twist that too few realize. Even when you correct vitamin D deficiency, your body may still be vulnerable if you ignore one more critical factor, something closely tied to vitamin D, yet often forgotten. Without it, your bones remain fragile, your arteries stiffen, and your risk of disease lingers. And it may be the missing piece in your own health puzzle. That missing piece is vitamin K2. When I first began digging into the research, I realized how rarely it's discussed in mainstream medicine. Most people know about vitamin K1, the one tied to blood clotting, but K2 is different. It has a very specific, almost magical job. It tells calcium where to go. Think about that for a moment. Vitamin D helps your body absorb calcium, but without vitamin K2, much of that calcium can end up in the wrong places. Instead of strengthening your bones, it deposits in your arteries, your joints, even your kidneys. This is why some people who take high doses of vitamin D without guidance actually increase their risk of heart disease. Their bones don't get stronger, their arteries get stiffer. I remember a patient, a kind man in his early 70s, who came to me after a minor heart scare. He'd been faithfully taking vitamin D for years, thinking he was protecting himself. His blood tests showed good levels, but his scans revealed calcium buildup in his arteries. No one had ever told him about K2. No one had warned him that vitamin D alone wasn't enough. This is the trap too many seniors fall into. They hear one piece of advice, they follow it diligently, but without the missing piece, the benefits never fully appear. Or worse, harm sneaks in. That's why I always say, vitamin D and vitamin K2 are like two sides of the same coin. One absorbs, the other directs. Together, they protect. Separately, they can mislead. Now, where do you get K2? It's not as simple as sunlight or salmon. K2 is found in certain fermented foods, like natto, a sticky Japanese dish made from soybeans. Cheese and egg yolks provide some, but not nearly enough for therapeutic effect. That's why, in most cases, I recommend supplementation alongside vitamin D. A well-balanced D3 plus K to supplement ensures the calcium goes to your bones and teeth, not your arteries and kidneys. The difference in patients who combine them is striking. Less joint stiffness, fewer fractures, improved cardiovascular health. I've even seen dramatic changes in dental health because teeth, after all, are living structures that rely on calcium. One elderly woman told me she could finally bite into an apple without pain again. Small victories, yes, but they add up to a better life. And here's where magnesium enters the story again. Without magnesium, your body struggles to activate both vitamin D and vitamin K2. Magnesium is the quiet enabler, often depleted by modern diets, stress, and medications. Many seniors are deficient without realizing it. When magnesium is restored, suddenly the vitamin D and K2 work like a symphony instead of scattered notes. Energy returns, sleep deepens, muscles relax. So, the real solution is not just take more vitamin D, it's a trio. Vitamin D to absorb, vitamin K2 to direct, magnesium to activate. When all three are in harmony, the effects are profound. Patients often tell me they feel younger, not in a superficial way, but in the depth of their daily lives. Walking becomes easier, memory sharper, joy more present. But let me caution you again, balance matters. Too much vitamin D without K2, and you risk hardened arteries. Too much calcium without enough D or K2, and bones remain brittle. Too much magnesium alone, and it won't fix the deeper imbalance. That's why I stress, this isn't about guessing or chasing trends. It's about understanding the delicate web of nutrients your body depends on. And here's something else most people don't realize. Even with perfect supplementation, lifestyle choices can undo the progress. Smoking, excessive alcohol, sedentary habits, processed foods, they all accelerate aging no matter what vitamins you take. Supplements are powerful, but they're not a free pass. The body needs movement, fresh food, restorative sleep, and meaningful connection. Without those, even the best supplement regimen falls short. So yes, the deficiency silently aging seniors is vitamin D, but the full truth is bigger, more nuanced. It's about the entire system of nutrients and habits working together. And that's where the real hope lies, not in one pill, but in a whole life approach. Still, there's one final truth I need to share with you. A truth about how this deficiency doesn't just steal years from your life. It steals life from your years. And unless you recognize the warning signs now, you may wake up one day too late to reclaim what was lost. I've seen the warning signs countless times, though patients rarely notice them until it's too late. They think it's just part of getting older. But when you've spent decades watching people age, you learn to spot the patterns, the subtle cues that something deeper is wrong. It starts small. A stumble on the sidewalk. A night of restless sleep that turns into a week. A name forgotten here, a date missed there. At first, it seems harmless. Annoying, maybe, but not alarming. Then one day, the stumble becomes a fracture. The restless nights become chronic fatigue. The memory lapses grow into confusion that frightens even the most resilient souls. And when we trace it back, so often the root is something as preventable as vitamin D deficiency. I remember sitting with a woman in her late 70s who was devastated after breaking her hip in a simple fall. "Doctor," she said, tears streaming down her face, "I used to walk every morning. Now I'm afraid to even leave my chair." Her independence was gone, not because of fate, but because of weak bones silently eroded by years of deficiency. What hurt her most wasn't the fracture, it was the loss of freedom. And that's the part many people don't realize. Deficiency doesn't just shorten your life, it shrinks the life inside your years. That's why I speak so urgently now, because I've also seen the other side. Patients who take action, who test, who supplement wisely, who commit to sunlight, nutrition, and movement. Their 70s and 80s look nothing like the stereotype. They walk taller, laugh louder, remember sharper. They live not just longer, but better. This is the message I want every senior, every caregiver, every son or daughter listening right now to hear. You are not powerless against aging. You are not doomed to weakness, frailty, or fog. Your choices today, to test, to nourish, to move, to rest, can rewrite the story of your later years. I know some of you may be thinking, it's too late for me. But I've seen remarkable changes even in people well into their 80s. Bones strengthen, moods lift, sleep returns, energy comes back in small but meaningful ways. It's never too late to give your body the tools it's been missing. Never too late to reclaim the pieces of life you thought were gone. So here's what I ask of you. Don't ignore the whispers of fatigue, the quiet warning of brittle nails, the subtle fog of memory. They may not just be age. They may be your body begging for what it lacks. Get tested. Talk to your doctor. Ask about vitamin D, about K2, about magnesium. Take the reins of your health before silence becomes suffering. And if you've found value in what I've shared today, I urge you, don't keep it to yourself. Share this video with a friend, a parent, a grandparent who may be silently struggling. Leave a comment below with your own story, your own questions, because when we speak openly, we learn together. And subscribe if you want more guidance, because I promise you this, I will keep sharing the truths that too often go unsaid in exam rooms. Your health is not just a matter of chance, it's a matter of choice. And the choice begins today, with awareness, with action, with the simple, powerful decision to give your body what it's been missing all along. Your health is your greatest wealth, and it starts today.